I would agree with Osama. Like in terms of public opinion is shifting. In terms of governments, Muslim and Arab nations are powerless. Let's face it. If Muslim and Arab nations were empowered enough to help with the liberation of Palestine beyond words and money, they would have been helping us beyond words and money. Words and money is not what brings us liberty. At the end of the day, the State of Israel is enabled by and supported by every government that hosts an Israeli embassy. Like for example, you're mentioning the United States of America. Like the United States of America is always known for supporting like fascist and dictator regimes that go within their orbit. It was only 2 years before Nelson Mandela was died, he was removed off the list of terror from the United States of America. So what's happening is that we do not have governments around the world that would put the liberation of the Palestinian people as a top priority by cutting ties with governments that provide support to the State of Israel because they are weak. That's it. Like, we are not going to be liberated by the current, let's say, stands. In the end of the day, we do need a radical stand from Muslim and Arab nations. We look at a country, for example, like Malaysia, that have been imposing sanctions, political sanctions on the Zionist regime since 1948. We need more countries like that. We need to set up an example that it's possible to the so-called Western world to impose sanctions on this criminal regime and expel its ambassadors from every single capital on the planet. This whole talk about we need peace between Palestinians and Israelis sounds exactly like we want peace between apartheid and the subjects of apartheid in South Africa. You can't have peace between like a fascist and savage regime and the subjects of that savage and fascist regime. Those fascist and savage regimes need to cease to exist so the oppressed people can have a chance for liberty and freedom. The way those things happen is in direct action in which there is no diplomatic cover, there is no economic cover, and there is no military cover for this regime to continue to exist in its current form. But like when we're talking about popular support, like of course, like any decent person on the planet can tell who the oppressed and who the oppressor are. Solidarity with the oppressed is like my solidarity with a homeless person somewhere on the planet. It's meaningless. What we need is direct action. We need to start looking at the addresses of Israeli embassies around the world and expel those ambassadors from every single capital around the world. And I'm talking to you in South Africa. It's still a shame for a country that managed to liberate itself from fascism and apartheid and continues to host a representative of a fascist defender of apartheid regime in Palestine. It's still a shame. Once South Africans realize how shameful it is, I'm sure they will be able to expel the representative of the State of Israel from the soul of apartheid, from the soul of South Africa. And as long as Nelson Mandela said, South Africa will not be free as long as Palestine is not free. It seems to me like to be a little bit confusing that a country that celebrates the collapse of apartheid on its soil supports and maintains diplomatic and economic relations with a regime that continues to uphold apartheid policies and regimes in Palestine. We need direct action. We need to start targeting the embassies of the State of Israel all over the world and demand the expulsion of the representatives of this fascist regime from every single capital on the planet.